So me and the missus was talking the other night, and I didn't notice until we had this conversation, but depending on where you're from, everybody has that particular brand of bread that is their go-to. Like, it's your go-to. You don't want this bread, you don't want that. Don't bring me that down there. Make sure you pick up that bread. You want that to make a sandwich with. I didn't know that didn't think about that until then. And it was like, yep, because I could go right to the brand. I ain't remember the name, but I can tell you what it looked like. And that bread was my go-to for real. What was y'all's? I need to know. But anyway, man, we're going to get to some of the crazy stuff. You know how this goes. Question everything. You should. And remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's get to it.
You cannot convince me that our food is not absolutely garbage for us because this bread that was supposed to expire on December the 4th still looks good. Like, look at that. December the 4th, and no pieces of bread have any mold on them. Like, that is not supposed to happen. You cannot convince me that our food is not absolutely...
Well, you know, if you put it in the fridge, I was under the assumption that you could make it last a little bit longer. At least that's what we were told. You know, you put it in the refrigerator, it lasts a little longer than that expiration date. You stretch it out a little bit more. You had to do what you had to do.
70-year-old Nancy Waterman is shoveling her property out of the mud after narrowly surviving the Palisades fire last month. She's lived here for 20 years. It's her home, but it's also her income. This 2-bedroom is one of a few guest houses on her property that she rents out.
I also have movies. You know, maybe 4 to 5 movies here every year and commercials.
Nancy says last week's storm brought mud and water from every direction.
It was soupy and thick.
And her family's biggest concern is about what's in the mud.
Unfortunately, we don't know what. Toxic ash, whether it's lead, arsenic, there's been porta potties from the neighborhood that washed onto her property.
She's frustrated by the lack of preparation from the city and county, and even more disappointed that no one other than her family came to check on her.
And I don't know how fast we can, you know, get this turned around, but I'm going to be asking for help.
A major round of layoffs is sending a jolt through Starbucks. No baristas are losing their jobs, but 1,100 corporate workers will be laid off tomorrow. The company's new chairman and CEO says several hundred unfilled positions are also being eliminated. A major round of layoffs is sending a jolt.
And I've been hearing like some negative feedback about Starbucks, bro. I'm hearing people are like, they're starting to slowly figure out that it's no different than any other a chain or restaurant. You know what I mean? That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing people just say that they're figuring it out. It's no different. It's sugar. It's a bunch of sugar. It's a bunch of processed and different things like that. And they don't like it no more. Like, I'm seeing that slow decline in people who were like diehard, have to have some Starbucks. They switching up.
While scientists believe the planet Mars has mostly been desert for billions of years, a new study suggests it was once home to an ancient ocean. This illustration shows where that ocean may have been. Scientists say soil and rock evidence suggests the massive ocean on Mars had waves and sandy beaches.
See, then that proves or supports my theory that the Earth is headed to what Mars looks like now. We're headed to that, possibly. That's not good.
It's been towering over Chickasha's downtown since 2022, bringing in visitors from all over the country.
We have data from a service that measures this that shows 1.9 billion, with a B, people were exposed to the phrase Chickasha leg lamp.
The Chickasha Community Foundation sought legal advice before building the lamp, ensuring they wouldn't violate trademarks. Jim Cowan says Warner Brothers never raised concerns until last fall when they received a letter.
Cease and desist, destroy it. Once the Community Foundation got that letter, the Community Foundation's attorneys that are trademark specialists responded to Warner Brothers attorneys, and once they did that, we haven't heard another word.
Warner Brothers claims it's copyright infringement, but Cowan doesn't see it that way.
We're not charging admission to see the leg lamp. Anybody can come and take a picture. We sell officially licensed merchandise in our gift shop.
Plus, the land it sits on is owned by the University of Science and Arts of Oklahoma.
Public universities are immune from trademark infringements because of when they use art.
While no lawsuit has been filed, Cowan is ready to fight if it gets to that point.
We believe we did it right. We have attorneys that believed we did it right. And so I can't imagine Warner Brothers wanting to pick on a small little town in rural Oklahoma.
So why is a leg lamp in Chickasha in the first place? It pays homage to a longtime resident, the late Nolan James.
He was an art professor at OU. He claimed in his obituary that he invented the prop.
Legend has it, the original one stood in his office.
It's all in fun, and we believe we did things the correct way, and our local businesses absolutely love it.
It's been towering over.
Appreciate it, Warner Brother Killjoy. It's like you can't. Everybody gotta be so uptight, intense. Like we can't have fun no more. Like what's the problem, bro? Man, come on. With everything going on in the world, this is the perfect distraction to take your. Even if it's for a few seconds, it took your mind off of the craziness, bro. Like, man, nobody wants to have fun no more.
So forgive the shameless pun, but my Bison friend here, his name is Trouble. And a lot of Trump voters we're speaking to here in Colorado say, yes, they're actually pretty happy that Donald Trump is causing a lot of trouble, a lot of uproar in Washington. But it's been a fascinating visit here because all of them also raised some concerns, some red flags about what they're seeing.
I really don't like him as a person. I think he's arrogant, kind of a jerk, but obviously he's a good businessman. I think maybe he's going a little bit overboard right now.
In what way?
I'm not sure he thought through the process. I mean, it's just kind of like, well, let's just get it over with and dump everybody. And, you know, you've got all these federal people that now don't have a job, so our unemployment rate's obviously going to go up. Where are they going to get their money unless they've saved it? Or are they going to go on welfare? Now, I know a lot of these people don't do a freaking thing. They sit around and waste our time. So, in one sense, hopefully it'll work and it's a good thing. In the next sense, it might blow up in his face.
What would you tell him if he called you up and said, well, okay, you think I'm not doing this exactly right. What should I do?
You know, if you're going to open your mouth, you got to be able to back it up. And that's the problem. He's doing all this stuff, and I don't know if he understands the ramifications of what he's doing.
A lot of people here don't like the tone when it comes to immigration. Yes, they say they want a secure border. Yes, they want a legal system of visas to let people into the country legally. But there are also a lot of undocumented Latinos working the farms and the meatpacking industry here. And every Trump voter we've spoken to said, they're our friends, they're our neighbors, they're hardworking people. They contribute to the economy.
Probably half of my business is Hispanic. You know, they're the ones that work hard. And they spend a lot of money in the community.
But if you had a do-over tomorrow and you had to pick again between Trump and Harris, what would you do?
I would still do Trump.
Why did it take 62 years for the FBI to find this new tranche of documents?
The FBI says it has new information about one of the United States' biggest mysteries. The Bureau says it has found 2,400 new records related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. This discovery comes as federal agencies work to comply with President Trump's executive order to release thousands of classified files. The documents are now making their way to the National Archives for the declassification process.
All of a sudden, we have 2,400 more, so we're talking now about maybe 5,500 documents.
But it's not all of a sudden, though. They've had this stuff all along. Like, they've had it. It's just now they're, for some reason, allowing it to be discovered by someone else. But no, this ain't new. They've had this stuff, and they know they had this stuff.
Documents altogether. I think it's unlikely that we're going to get the so-called smoking gun in these documents. Although I tell my students, let's be, prepared to be surprised. But we will learn, I think, possibly, valuable information, for example, about Lee Harvey Oswald's whereabouts in the 2 months or so prior to Dallas, and notably in Mexico City. What was he doing there? Who did he meet with? We know some of that. There could be more in these documents about Oswald. It's more, it seems to me, about what the CIA knew and also other intelligence agencies knew in the lead up to Dallas. Did they lose the thread? Did they cooperate fully? If they lost the thread in some respect, you could see why they would be embarrassed and why this might contribute to the fact that for 6+ decades now, we still haven't learned maybe as much as we might. Why did it take 62 years for the FBI to find this new tranche of documents?
All this beautiful white out here, and you had to just go mess it up with your dadgum monkey stick.
And breaking news, Ipe Mizuhara, the former interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, sentenced to almost 5 years in prison. The sentence, 57 months to be exact, was handed down in federal court in Santa Ana just minutes ago. Mizuhara pleaded guilty last year to bank and tax fraud. He admitted to stealing nearly $17 million from Ohtani's bank account to pay his own gambling debts. Investigators say the Dodgers star had no involvement and was an unknowing victim. Mizuhara must also pay restitution to both Ohtani and the IRS, totaling more than $18 million.
What did you say? Huh? You said nobody's getting in the McDonald's 20, right? You IDing at the door for McDonald's, right, sir?
That's not what I said. That's
I'm just saying. And they got the kids waiting outside. Like, it's crazy. Stop messing up people's place. Stop messing up the people's place. You got waiting outside because they over here tearing up people's place. This is crazy. This is sick. Sick. Yeah, this is so funny. Let me show y'all something. You see how peaceful this McDonald's is? You see how there's no kids? You see how there's no turmoil? How there's nobody fighting? This is the McDonald's on Flatbush. You see how peaceful it is? Sir, what did you say? Huh? You said nobody's getting...
Hey, McDonald's had to hire a bouncer. They had to hire a bouncer, man, like it's the club. Nah, you can't come in right now. We got too many people. You got to wait till somebody come out. What? That's bad. I've seen some bad McDonald's where stuff go down, like the Waffle House. But to hire security, that says a lot without saying a lot right there. Yeah, it does.
Have you ever seen the footage or the assassination of John F. Kennedy? This is known as the magic bullet theory. It was the first ever conspiracy theory, and today it just turns out that it was true. And for you guys that don't know, the CIA literally developed the term conspiracy to specifically cover up this event. Now, if you somehow believe that JFK was killed by one man and one bullet, you are just incredibly misled and manipulated very easily. This is how it went down. The 35th president, JFK, was going down the streets of Dallas, Texas. Kennedy was directly shot at 12:30 p.m. in his motorcade past the Texas School Book Depository. Now, the shooter ended up being Lee Harvey Oswald, and he was sitting on the 6th floor and allegedly fired 3 different shots from that floor. Of course, ultimately ending JFK's life. Now, this video footage wasn't released until 1975, or 12 years after the shooting of JFK himself, and you can see right here. I can't play the next 2 seconds of this video for obvious reasons. You can find this on YouTube, but check out why he is struggling right here. For the first time in 60 years, for whatever reason, the former Secret Service agent finally decided to speak out about the event. Paul Landis. Now, of course, the presidential candidate.
Now, that seems, I don't know, extra suspicious of a person now. What was keeping you from saying something before? What did they have over your head? What did they threaten you with? Like, don't just speak about everything you experienced. Because I think it's a reason why he's just doing it now, speaking out.
RF Kennedy spoke about this on his Twitter today, being like, this is a huge advancement because the magic bullet theory is now dead. The government has been directly caught lying to our faces, and yet this isn't even being covered by our major news stations yet, even though this happened about 24 hours ago. I'm talking about Fox News, CNN, etc., and you'd wonder why. But essentially what happened is that the CIA classified that the investigations of the event resulted from one bullet, claiming a bullet went through his back, ricocheted through his ribs, and came out JFK's throat, which was the second shot in the video that you can watch, and then shoots into the governor, the person in the top left seat, and actually, I think, ricochets through him like 2 or 3 times, resulting in 7 different exits and entrances and wounds. Hey, I found it. Check this out. It is so stupid. The theory says that a 3-centimeter long, 1.2-inch copper jacket lead core bullet fired from the 6th floor of the Texas school from the shooter and ultimately passed through President Kennedy's neck into Governor Connolly's chest, went through his right wrist, and embedded itself in Connolly's left thigh. If so, this bullet traversed a back brace, 15 layers of clothing, 7 layers of skin, and approximately 15 inches of muscle tissue, and pulverized 4 inches of Connolly's rib and shattered his radius bone. And for 60 years, the government has just said that our president of the United States was assassinated by this lone actor, who of course was conveniently killed 2 days after he was shot by Jack Ruby when he was being transported. So there was no room for interrogation. Now, the CIA has given multiple reports on short histories of what happened in the mid-1960s to 1963. But what it really breaks down to is JFK and the CIA didn't agree on a lot of things at all, and JFK would not give the go-ahead on a lot of the things that the CIA was trying to do with taking down Fidel Castro from Cuba, which was ultimately during the Missile Cuban crisis, and this resulted in the Bay of Pigs. And through like a heap of evidence that shows that JFK did not want the Bay of Pigs invasion to actually ever happen. But after rejecting the CIA multiple times and even the chief of staff, President Kennedy did not want these operations to take effect with the anti-communist Cuban project the US and the CIA were trying to pursue, which ultimately led to the CIA going behind Kennedy's back and almost causing World War III, because all they gave a shit about was the military-industrial complex and wanted, for whatever reason, to cause a massive war. Actually, there is no whatever reason. They wanted to make heaps of money off of this. But what matters today is that the very first conspiracy to ever exist was just debunked. It ended up being completely true. And again, if you haven't seen the assassination video, it's very clear that JFK is actually shot twice into this, once right now in the neck, and then probably shortly in just a second gotta shut it off. But the United States and the CIA literally covered up the assassination of a US president. And while this is for whatever reason not breaking the internet right now, RFK, again, the presidential candidate, I really recommend you check him out. Also just shared an article today of the CIA pretty much front preparing color revolution in Indonesia.
What? How is that even possible? Yo, what did they tell us if we sleep beside our phones? What could happen? All these fucking waves or whatever could affect us. What do you think is happening to her in this room with all these phones? This can't be good. It's like she done created her own like little microwave situation in there.
Melanated Indians, descendants of the mound builders, why they got castles in the background? See, y'all just looking at this. People just looking at this. People just looking at this. What about that? What about that? Why that's there? They built it. They built it. I put a video up last year on my old page. It got it's the Grave Creek Mound in West Virginia. Got a big castle. Here go the mound. Here go the castle right here. I told y'all, the people buried in that mound lived in that castle. Now it's a goddamn prison. Now it's a prison. I put that information on the internet, man. Ain't nobody do that but me. Now I see everybody talking about it. I told you that go together. It go together, y'all.
American families are getting creative as egg prices soar. USDA data shows the average price for a dozen eggs rose to $4.95 last month. That's about double what it was a year ago.
Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get relief anytime soon. And a big reason why is bird flu. It's not something you can eradicate overnight. We know that millions of these hens, these egg-laying hens, had to be euthanized. And so with that means that farmers need to have new flocks. It takes at least 6 months. There's a lag time. At the same time, demand is not coming down. We have Easter around the corner, a big holiday where eggs are sort of center stage. So the USDA expects egg prices to go up another 20% this year. That's on top of the $4.95 a dozen you saw on that graphic, up 96% just from a year ago.
I know we eat a lot of eggs in my house. I know we're not alone there. So what can families do to try to save?
They are getting creative. As you said, you know, plant-based eggs are sort of having their moment right now, these vegan-based eggs. Just Egg is a company that says demand is up 5-fold. But you also have people using other staples to substitute for eggs, like smashed bananas, like the pulp from a tomato, because they add the moisture to recipes.
Last hour, Ukrainian officials have said a deal has been reached between Kyiv and Washington on the joint exploitation of Ukraine's mineral resources. Now, the country is rich in oil and gas, as well as raw materials, as this map shows. Full details haven't yet been made public of the deal, but an agreement could be signed later this week and have consequences for the war with Russia. Donald Trump says President Zelensky might travel to the White House this Friday. Well, in a moment, we'll speak to James Waterhouse live in Kyiv, but first to Gary O'Donoghue, who's in Washington. Gary, has Donald Trump got what he wanted then?
Well, we were told yesterday by the president that this deal was close, and that turned out to be true. It seems that the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed. We don't know much about the detail. President Trump has said already that this could be worth, billions of dollars to the US, and an important part of his request. And he said just in the last few minutes, Clive, that he expected the deal to be signed later this week.
I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to, and he would like to sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal, very big deal. And I think the American people, even if you look at polling, they're very happy because, Biden was throwing money around like it's cotton candy, and it's a very big deal. Look, it could be $1 trillion deal.
Now, we don't know exactly what President Trump has given in terms of security guarantees, which are a key part of Ukraine's ask, and we don't know how much of a share of those resources going forward that the Americans will have.
See, that's what I was waiting to hear. What all entails? Like, we've been hearing about the deal taking place and the natural resources and everything that they have, and us getting part for the money that we've sent that we had nothing back. Doing this deal would kind of compensate us for the money that we've given. But I haven't heard any terms and conditions of the deal. That's weird.
Either, and of course, none of this can happen until the fighting is finished.
All right, Gary O'Donoghue live at the White House there. To you, James, in Kyiv. As Gary mentioned there, one of the key stipulations for Kyiv was some kind of security guarantee as part of this deal. Do you have any idea if that's part of the agreement?
Clive, I'm afraid I can't add to Gary's report there. We don't know any more details here on just what security guarantees Ukraine has secured from this apparent agreement. Now, you're right. This is what Ukraine has wanted. It has wanted America to be interested in its vast natural mineral resources in exchange for security guarantees. So boots on the ground, ammunition, weaponry, financial support to prevent Russia from invading again after a ceasefire is signed, after Russia keeps hold of the fifth of Ukraine it has taken so far. We are told by sources here that the terms of this deal are much more favourable. So you'll remember that Donald Trump said he wants access to $500 billion worth of Ukrainian minerals, a figure that's been disputed in these parts. That has now been dropped. And we must remind ourselves of the hostile backdrop where Donald Trump has accused President Zelensky of being responsible for Russia's invasion, falsely labelling him as a dictator. It's been incredibly hostile. And now we have this apparent area.
I feel like all of this was part of the tactics, though. The part of the tactics to get the deal done, apply pressure, all of these different things that we be seeing happen. Instead of looking at them for what they are, we need to be looking at them like, okay, this has got to be strategy for what they're doing.
Of agreement. And the hope here is this. If America has agreed to this deal, then it gives it a stake. And if it has interests to defend, then that might equate to military support to enable Ukraine to exist after a ceasefire is signed.
Indeed. All right, James, good to see you. James Waterhouse there live in Kyiv. Many thanks.